I believe we're live. Hello, Faces of Partner World. I've got a pretty special guest today. You signed up, and I've been a part of that conversation. No doubt I've mentioned the book, The Go-Giver. Bob Burg is with us today. He's authored numerous books on sales and marketing and influence. And the Go-Giver book alone, which I've read multiple times, has sold over 850,000 copies. And Bob's now a sought-after speaker and travels around the world. His book's been translated into 28 languages. And today, for at least the next 30 minutes, he's a guest of ours. And we're going to talk about the book and some of the concepts in the book. And Bob, this is a huge privilege for me. I'm a big fan of yours. And so if you don't mind, take a couple minutes, introduce yourself to the group, and, happy to have you. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you. I love what you and Brad are doing, and it's bringing so much value to the lives of so many people. And that's really, that's really what it's all about. And so I appreciate what y'all are doing. With me, I'm a longtime sales guy and very proud of it. Love sales, and I think it's because of the way I see sales and like to define it. So often there's a misconception, right, in the public that says sales is about trying to convince someone to buy something they don't want or need. And, we know that's not selling. That's called being a con artist. And selling, by definition, is simply discovering what the other person wants, needs, or desires and helping them to get it. The interesting thing is that the Old English root of the word sell is selan, which meant to give. So when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone might say, well, wait a second, isn't that just semantics? When you're selling, you're giving. What are you giving when you're selling? Well, I suggest that when you're selling, what you're giving is this. You're giving time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and most of all, value. So you should be proud to be a salesperson, an entrepreneur, and be building the economy and making people's lives better.
That's great. I am largely responsible for business development for us and for adding partners. And, there's a big pressure for us to do that, to give as much value as possible in return for their investment in us. And I look at sales in the exact same way you just described it, right? My objective is to help them be more successful. And
Absolutely.
Amen to that, Bob. A lot of this conversation today will kind of wrap around the Go-Giver, the book. That book was a huge inspiration for Brad Abernathy. He was the original, The Faces of, and he literally took the five laws of stratospheric success and applied that to a marketing project that is now our platform. What is the premise of the Go-Giver? What is a Go-Giver, Bob?
That's a great question. The basic premise is this, that shifting your focus, and this is really the key, Brian, shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others. So it's understanding that doing so is not only a pleasant way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well.
I think that's awesome. Certainly at the fundamental basis of what we're trying to do through this community storytelling project, that's it, right? Is serve as many people as possible and give them as much as you could possibly give them. And if we can do that, and we'll talk about some of the laws that you described, but if we can do that and we can do that well, there's no telling what might happen.
Exactly.
Is we, in an effort to kind of keep this relatively short, the whole book is essentially made up of the 5 laws of stratospheric success, and that any one of them independently by itself is a worthy goal, right? But if you can honor all 5 and you can embody all 5 and your mindset is kind of wrapped around all 5, you really have put yourself in a position to be super successful. Maybe at a high level, or as much as time allows, we'll kind of pay attention to that. But can you walk through the framework of the 5 laws?
Sure.
Maybe we'll just do an initial introduction of the laws, and depending on timing, we'll talk about how that applies specifically to this project. But at the very least, can you talk through these 5 laws and why they're important?
Yeah, so as you said, Brian, each of the laws in and of themselves will take you a little bit of the way, but when you use them in conjunction, right, together, all 5 of them, that's when it really can lift you to that stratospheric kind of success that John David Mann and I talk about in the book. The laws themselves are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. The first one, the law of value, says your true worth, in the business sense, of course, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when you first hear that, it's a little counterintuitive, right? Because it give more in value than I take in payment. That sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy, right? But to understand it, we simply have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another person that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit? Can I give a quick example?
Please.
Let's say you hire an accountant to do your taxes. And this accountant, she charges you, we'll name a round figure, $1,000. That's her fee, or literally her price, $1,000. But what value does she give you in exchange? Well, first, through her years of work, study, learning her business, through focusing on what you need, what you're looking to accomplish, she's able to save you $5,000 in taxes. She also saves you countless hours of time, and she provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So again, first we see that, again, while price is concrete, right? While price is finite only, value is both concrete in terms of the $5,000 savings. We can get our arms around that, but it's also conceptual. Right? The peace of mind. How do you even put a price on something like that? That probably holds more value to you than right? So what she did was she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 fee or price. She gave you more in value than she took in payment. So you feel great about it, but remember, she also made a very, very healthy profit, which she should. And whether it's a matter of being a realtor who charges X% to take a listing, you know you're helping that person sell their home at a higher price and less time, less aggravation. You're taking care of all the different things, the logistics of this, that, right? And so that person's actually getting more in value than what they're paying in your commission or fee, but your commission and fee is still very, very healthy, as it should be. All this takes place because the salesperson themselves is not focused on the fee. They're focused on the value they're bringing the other person. And this is why we say that money is simply an echo of value. Okay? It's the thunder, if you will, to value's lightning, which means the value comes first. That's where the focus is. The money you receive is simply a very natural result of the value you've provided.
I have an interesting question about that.
Sure.
As a guy that's been in sales for a long time, I find myself curious, like as a sales guy, if I wanted to create a greater take home, a greater return, I would use that, like what my current level of annual compensation is. If I want that to be more, then I need to be reflecting internally on the ways that I'm creating value for my customers, right? It's not anybody else's fault but mine as a salesperson. And learning and understanding how to go out and deliver as much value as possible.
It begins there. And here's the thing. It's not enough just to do well what you do. I mean, that's important, of course. But remember, the chances are you probably deal in a commodity. I mean, let's face it, real estate, you're dealing with homes. Right. And most products and services today, whether it's cars, okay, whether it's anything. I mean, pretty much anything, a product or a service.
If it's not consulting, right? It's pretty much a commodity.
Yeah, exactly. And so what do you do to separate yourself? Because let's face it, if a prospective customer cannot cannot differentiate, right, between any two or more people, any two or more realtors, it's always going to come down to who has the lowest fee or price or commit, right? And unless your last name is Walmart or Amazon.com, trying to make low price your unique selling proposition is not a good way to do business. It's not productive. It's not profitable. It's not sustainable. When you sell on low price, you're a commodity. When you sell on high value, you're a resource. So the question is, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you separate yourself? Well, there are hundreds of ways to do so, but they tend to come down to 5 what we call elements of value. And those elements of value are excellence, consistency, attention, empathy, and appreciation. To the degree that you can communicate one or more, hopefully all 5 of those within every touch point, okay, from the moment you first meet that person, whether it's inbound or an outbound connection, through the relationship building process, through the sales process, the follow-up, follow-through, the referral process. That's the degree that you take price and your competition out of the picture. What you all did with Faces is you found a way to provide for the realtor or anyone else, because it's not just, realtors.
Yeah, we have a handful of partners that aren't in real estate. We do mortgaging or, small business, digital marketing.
Exactly.
Community-based business, right? A business that depends on that local market to provide for a way of life.
Right.
It's essentially who this platform is for.
So what you've done is you've really provided for them to communicate value, to communicate immense value in a way that differentiates themselves and distinguishes themselves from their competition. And that's so very key, because
You
really—
talk about consistency too, Bob. We advocate for sharing the story of 2 local community members a week. So because of social media, twice a week with a resonant topic, this sponsor is out in front of the public in the public eye, creating lots of engagement, and that, the elements of giving value that you speak of, it checks a lot of the boxes. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And that's why I love the idea of what you did. Anytime you can find a way to distinguish yourself by placing an immense focus on the other person, that's the key, because it's what they value. See,
Right.
they don't care what's on your website talking about how great your company is, that this and that, we do this and we're able to do this. No, they want to know, how does it affect me? But they also want to know, wow, if I'm the one that's that's being focused on, now it takes on a whole different meaning. So well done in that in that regard. So that's really the law of value. Law number 2 is the law of compensation. This one says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. Your accountant in the first example, she did a great job giving you more in value than she took in payment while still making a very healthy profit. So the chances are you are very happy with her. You would use her again, and you probably refer her to others. Well, her other clients feel the same way. So our accountant is very quickly amassing what we call an army of personal walking ambassadors. And as she continues to add that kind of exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, her income will continue to grow and grow. The realtor who does a great job of listing that home, getting it sold, putting together those elements of value, or who sells a home, helps someone owns a home and takes such great care of them and is so wonderful and so caring and empathetic and does all that person again is going to have that opportunity to serve more people. Now, one of the best ways of serving more people, of course, is through referrals. I believe that referrals are so important and so beneficial because, 1, referred prospects, it's simply easier to get the appointment. You're going in on borrowed influence. 2, with referred prospects, price or fee is less of an issue. It's not necessarily a non-issue or not an issue, but it's less of an issue because remember, borrowed influence. You're going in as a person already looked at as, you know, someone who, so rather than trying again to be the low price, which is just a losing proposition for all, you can sell on high value. A third benefit of a referred prospect, it's easier to complete the transaction due to borrowed trust or what we call vicarious experience. So while this person in front of you hasn't done business with you, someone who they trust has said, this is the person who will take care of you. This is the person you can depend on. This is the person who will put your interests first. And then the fourth benefit of a referred prospect is typically they're already of the mindset that that's how you do business because that's how they met you. So to them, you meet your prospects through referral, you sell on high value rather than low price, you complete the transaction, and then you are referred to others. So as long as you know how to ask correctly, boom, you have a great chance of, and that's how you serve. So just as Nicole Martin, the CEO in the story and the Go-Giver told Joe, while law number one, the law of value represents your potential income, law number two, the number of lives you impact with that value, that represents your actual income. Law number three is the law of influence. And this one says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Again, sounds counterintuitive, counterproductive maybe, but you know, the greatest leaders that you know, the top influencers, the highest money earning producers, it's how they run their lives. It's how they conduct their business. They're always looking out for the other person's interests. Now, I want to qualify this, if I may, because I think this is very important. When we say place the other person's interests first, we certainly don't mean you should be anyone's doormat, or you should be a martyr, or you should be self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not. It's simply that as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's simply no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, or as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, told Joe, making your win all about the other person's win.
Right.
Law number four is a law of authenticity. And this, you know, Deborah Davenport, the realtor in the story, she shared a lesson that she learned that was very helpful to her. And that is all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are. And they are indeed all very, very important. They're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel safe with you. They know you. They like you. They love you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to refer you to others. And, you know, when we say, well, why do people sometimes not show up authentically? I think the biggest reason is that, you know, sometimes people just don't have the self-confidence to do so. They don't see themselves. They don't recognize the value they bring, that authentic value they bring to the table. I believe as human beings, we have two types of value. Okay. We have intrinsic value, which means just as human beings, we show up, that's enough. We have great value with that. But we also have what I call market value. And I define market value as that combination of strengths, traits, talents, and characteristics that allows a person to bring value to the marketplace, value to others in such a way that they will be financially rewarded. Different people have different types of strengths. You know, what my friend Mike Littman calls assets of value. But sometimes as human beings, it's difficult for us to recognize them because we're human. And we're so close to ourselves, and we don't necessarily, right? And that's why it's so important, you know, sometimes to have a mentor, whether it's your sales manager, whether it's a friend or a colleague who, you know, someone you respect, someone who knows you well enough to be helpful, but not so emotionally involved with you that they can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
So it's very important to really, because when we understand our strengths, okay, and we feel confident in those strengths, we have to know our weaknesses too. But when we lead with our strengths, that's when we can lead authentically, because we have the confidence.
That's right. I was just having this conversation yesterday with a new partner that hasn't been in real estate that long, but has a decorated professional career in building books of business and taking care of other people and serving their interests. And she and I were talking about what to put on her bio on the partner site, because she can't necessarily promote this huge background in real estate. And I was like, you have so much to promote that a lot of real estate agents don't, right? Like settle into who you are. And it was exactly how I said it. Like who is your authentic self? And just in a couple of exchanges that her and I had and the opportunity I've had to get to know her, and I'm proud that she's now part of our community because of how much she has to offer, just needs to realize that, right? And be proud of what she brings in her professional background and her mindset and her ability to have empathy and her desire to take care of her customers. That will play through and that will lead to a successful career. So yeah, I think of all those things when you describe someone that maybe is insecure about what their value is, right? It's a real struggle at times.
Exactly. Oh, it's very human. We all go through it, I think. You know, I do. So, you know, I mean, I think it's something that's a work in progress. The last law, Brian, is kind of the one, if the first law, the law of value, is the foundational principle, the fifth law, the law of receptivity, is the one that kind of brings it all home. Okay. And this is really nothing more than understanding that we breathe out and we also breathe in. It's not one or the other. We breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen, right? We do both. We breathe out, which is giving, but we also have to breathe in, which is receiving. And you know, we unfortunately get so many messages from the world around us when it comes to money and it comes to prosperity. And I'm not going to say we get mixed messages. We don't. We get very negative messages about them. And if you watch or listen to or read the news, or you watch a TV show or a movie, or if it's almost like anyone who does well financially did it on the backs of others, or they did this, or they did it wrong, or well, here's the thing, okay? In a free market-based economy, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one is forced to do business with anyone else, okay?
That's right.
In a free market-based economy, which most of us live in, okay, because no one has to buy from you, right? I often say when I speak at a sales conference, the first thing I'll say is no one's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? No one's going to buy from you because you need the money, and no one's even going to buy from you because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you only because they believe they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's the only reason anyone should buy from you, from me, or from anyone else, okay? Which is great. Again, what does that do? It makes it so it's incumbent upon us to focus on communicating value to them. So, but here's the thing. When we do this, we've earned the right, not the entitlement, the right to receive. But the world tells us, oh, no, receiving bad, right? You say it, not, they don't say that necessarily out loud, but it's in every message, and it gets into people's unconscious. And, that
so people come from a place of greed, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're successful and want to make a bunch of money.
Right. So people can often sabotage themselves. And because if you in your head, if you believe that those who make a lot of money are dishonest, right, or did it somehow, now, and here's the thing. Remember, the media is in the job of selling advertising, and to do that, you've got to get a lot of eyeballs, right? And so they put things out there to attract what basically attracts people. Now, here's a news story that you don't usually see, okay? Corporate CEO treats people fairly. You don't see that. It doesn't sell. What sells is Enron. Yeah. What sells is the bank that took advantage of its customers. What sells is the automobile company that falsified its emissions testing. Those sell, okay? And so, unfortunately, you know, that's the ethos of the world. That's the message we get from the world, that giving and receiving are somehow opposite concepts. You're one or the other. Not so. Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. It's not a matter of, are you a giver or a receiver? No, you're a giver and a receiver. But what you know is that the giving comes first. And again, when we say giving, we mean focusing on creating value for others. And when you do that, and then you allow yourself to receive, now everyone comes away a winner.
It's not an expectation, right? But you need to be open to the idea that
right. You don't attach yourself, but you're right, but you allow it.
Yeah, that's great. I really hope, I know a bunch of our partners have read the book. At least everyone I've talked to is now familiar with it, and this will help that a lot. But if you're a partner with us in the Faces of and you've not read the book, I would highly advocate for doing that. I think, as I think about the project, and I don't necessarily want to get into weeds with you around the project, right? But the idea is to go out and serve the community, tell the story of that community through its people. So one person at a time, you're giving them immense value by putting them up on a pedestal and recognizing them as an important member of the community. By reaching the entire community through this project, you're touching more people, right? And so you can start checking off the boxes as it relates to the laws that encompass altogether. They encompass the framework or the formula for a really successful initiative. And obviously, this project has been hugely successful for Brad, and we've seen some really cool stories come out of the different places from around the country that we have partners trying to implement this. I do want to talk, like when you think about one of the words that in my mind seems to continue to come up is the word influence, right? And one of the things I think we're helping our partners create is a really strong community influential position in their market, and that they are now connected with lots of people that know who they are, and that provides influence. But how does a go-giver, these 5 laws, how do they contribute to influence, both personally and professionally? And then as a follow-up to that, how does that relate directly to new business, creating new business?
Yeah, well, so influence itself, and if you take the word, if you define the word, okay, on a very, very basic level, influence is simply the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. That's the definition, but it's really not the essence of influence. The essence of influence is pull. Pull as opposed to push, as in how far can you push a rope? And we know the answer is not very, at least not very fast or very effectively, which is why great influencers don't push. You never hear people say, wow, that Tom or that Mary, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people, right? She sure is pushy. Wow, what here? No, she's influential. She has a lot of pull with people.
I like it.
And that's what it is, pull. It's an attraction. Great influencers attract people to themselves first, and then to their ideas. That's why Faces is so influential by nature, because you're attracting them to you first. And you're attracting them to get to know you, to like you, to trust you, okay? Now, how do you really communicate, if you will, that pull, okay? And here's really, it's understanding something very basic. And Dale Carnegie talked about this in his classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I believe this one sentence was the underlying premise of his entire teaching. And it said this: ultimately, people do things for their reasons, not our reasons. So the great influencer is always going to ask themselves questions. Okay, again, goes back to focus, to make sure their focus is not on themselves, but on the other person. So the questions they ask themselves are, how does what I'm asking this person to do, how does it align, whether it's a client, a customer, prospect, whether it's a family member or a friend, or whether it's someone who you might want to feature in Faces, okay? It's asking yourself the question, how does what I'm asking this person to do, how does it align with their goals? with their wants, needs, and desires? How does what I want this other person to do, how does it align with their values? What problems might I be helping them to solve? How am I making their life better in some way? And when we ask ourselves these questions thoughtfully, intelligently, genuinely, authentically, not as a way to manipulate another human being into doing our will, no, but as a way of building everybody in the process, now we've come a lot closer to earning that person's commitment to our idea, and that is influence.
Yeah, that's great. And that's, I think that's the premise behind the whole project, right? Just go out and serve others and continue to serve them without any expectation of anything in return. And lo and behold, the law of reciprocity suggests you might get abundance in return. And that's exactly what's happened for Brad. And is our desire for everybody that partners with us is we have an opportunity to create closer community in markets all over the country. And through creating that closer community, we're enabling an individual or partner to rise up and gain significant community influence and hopefully significant business does so. Man, I love it. When you, Brad spent some time and effort to kind of crystallize or clarify what this project really is, and you wrote the book Face Value, and because you were such a strong inspiration to that, I sent you a copy, and you were kind enough to read it and give feedback. What stuck out to you most about this project, and what were some of the things that kind of came to you as you were reading through this as an actual application of the 5 laws of stratospheric success as it relates to marketing a community-based business?
Well, I think the thing that really impressed me the most was that he found a way to distinguish himself from others in a field that's very difficult to distinguish oneself. Okay. So that's always, and that's a matter of taking the laws and say, well, how do I apply it? How do I apply it in this case? How might it work here? So, that to me is something so very admirable, because it's one thing to read some ideas and think, oh yeah, those are okay. It's another thing to think, okay, how do I apply this now to my business in such a way that I can really bring this exceptional value to others, how I can bring it to lots of others, how I can be influential through that kind of service, through attracting people to me through what I'm doing. How can I do it in an authentic way, a way that's congruent with my values, and how can I receive in abundance as a result of doing so?
Yeah, there's a leap of faith with that, right? When you spend a significant amount of time going out and serving others and committing yourself to telling their story and promoting them, the belief that that's the right thing to do and it will lead to positive success. You certainly have to understand the premise behind this book, and you have to have the right mindset, as you've said. And it's been really interesting. Brad's market has over 1,600 agents that have done a transaction there, and he's been the top producer there for many, many years. And so it's fascinating how these things work and the impact it can have.
Yeah, and the nice thing is while Brad was the pioneer, what he's done now is he's systemized it, so that now it's really not a leap of faith for the people. There always is a little bit. Anything's a leap of faith anytime you start a business, but it shouldn't be too big a leap of faith, right? There should be a proven aspect.
There's case studies, right? We have some measurable data that suggests what's possible through a project like this.
Yeah, and and throughout his book, he really systemized how to do it. In which I know that once someone's a partner for y'all, you take them through on a deeper level. But really, when you think about what is a system, well, a system, at least how I define a system, is the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key is predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then all you need to do is A and continue to do A and continue to do A, and you're going to get that desired result of B.
Sure.
And that's what I think is so great about the system y'all have put together.
That's great. It's a privilege to be able to impact people in the way that we are, in the position that we sit, and, the community value that we create. And, in some ways you're a testament to that, and that you've taken an interest in what we're doing. And obviously it's a response to us being such big fans of your book, but
Thank you.
I look forward. We had some technical issues at the beginning, so I'm going to spend some time kind of seeing how this plays out, Bob, and may well invite you back for a 2.0 down the road at some point in the future. But I was so looking forward to the opportunity to spend this time with you and get to know you a little bit in person. I feel like I know the spirit of you through the book, right? I assume that you wrote The Go-Giver. This must be who you embody. And if that's the case, you and I have a tremendous number of things in common. So it's a privilege to get to spend some time here. Will you let the group know if they were interested in signing up for your newsletter or learning more about how to follow Bob Burg and get some more insights and some more information from you? What's the easiest way for them to do that?
Sure. And I do want to give a shout out to John David Mann, who's my co-author and really the lead writer and storyteller. You can probably tell I'm a how-to guy, right? I'm step 1, step 2, step 3. John is a brilliant storyteller, and the book never would have, came across as it did without his brilliance. So as far as information on the book or any of my courses and all that, either thegogiver.com or Burg, BURG.com. Either of those will take you to the information.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure and put that in the comments and make sure. I think we're going to send this out as part of the newsletter too. And we send a monthly newsletter out to the group. And so we'll make sure there's plenty of ways that the partner group can find their way to you if they haven't found you already. And I really think your message is resonant, and it will give some context to why and how we put this project together and really why it works, the spirit of what the Faces Of really is. And man, I appreciate you saying it out loud in person. I've enjoyed listening to it, and no doubt I'll be in touch. I'll stay in contact with you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I hope so. And I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Bob. Thanks.